When someone realizes they can no longer manipulate you, their first instinct is often not to walk away with grace, but to flip the script. One of the most common and damaging tricks they use is playing the victim. It is a dirty tactic that works on many people because it is subtle, manipulative, and emotionally charged. Once they know they cannot control your choices, your emotions, or your independence, they quickly shift the narrative and try to make themselves look like the one who has been wrong. They do this for one main reason: to regain power. If they can no longer control you through direct means, they will attempt to control how others see you. They twist stories, leave out key details, and exaggerate their pain to present themselves as the misunderstood, hurt, and innocent one in the situation. This puts you in a defensive position without you even realizing it. Suddenly you are explaining yourself, justifying your choices, or trying to prove that you are not the villain in their story. That is the trap. People who use this tactic rely on your empathy. They know that you care about others. They know you try to be fair, and they know you do not want to be seen as unkind. So they weaponize your compassion against you. They act wounded. They act like they were only trying their best. They act like you suddenly became cold or distant without reason. And when you push back or stand your ground, they act surprised or betrayed. It becomes a performance built to shame you into submission. This kind of behavior is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in subtle ways. Passive-aggressive comments, a sudden change in tone when talking to others about you, or selective silence followed by vague remarks about how someone has changed. These little moves are strategic. They are designed to create confusion and shift the focus away from what actually happened and onto how they feel about it. The truth is, when you start setting boundaries, when you stop tolerating manipulation, and when you begin making decisions for yourself, you disrupt the control they once had over you. That makes them uncomfortable. That makes them scared. And in some cases, it makes them desperate. Playing the victim is a last attempt to paint you as the problem, because if you are the bad one, then they do not have to take responsibility for their actions. Staying strong in this moment means refusing to accept their version of the story. It means being clear in your truth without the need to defend every detail. It means trusting your own perception and your own experience, even when someone else is trying to rewrite it. You are not responsible for how they twist the facts. You are only responsible for standing in your integrity and not shrinking under false guilt. You will know this trick is being used when someone suddenly acts like they do not understand your boundaries, even though you were clear, when they tell others that they are hurt, but leave out the part where they pushed you too far, when they cry about being abandoned, but ignore the fact that you were simply protecting your peace. They want your strength to look like cruelty and your boundaries to look like betrayal. Do not fall for it. Do not step back into old patterns just to comfort someone who thrived on your silence. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to draw the line. You are allowed to walk away from relationships that only worked when you stayed small. And if they have to play the victim to maintain their role in your life, then that is proof that your strength exposed the game they were playing all along. When someone can no longer manipulate you directly, their next move is often more emotional, more silent, and more difficult to detect. They use guilt as a weapon, not because you did something wrong, but because they know guilt is one of the quickest ways to bring a strong person to their knees. Guilt is a quiet force. It does not yell. It whispers. It creeps in and makes you question your motives, your words, and your boundaries, even when you know you acted from a place of truth. That is why they use it. Guilt works especially well on people who care deeply. If you are someone who takes responsibility, who wants to do right by others, who feels things intensely, you are the perfect target. They will not ask you to change your mind directly anymore. They know that will not work. Instead, they make you feel like your actions are selfish or your choices are hurting them, even when those choices were necessary for your own well-being. They frame your independence as betrayal, your silence as punishment, your growth as abandonment. You will start to notice the pattern. They will say things like, "I guess I do not matter to you anymore," or "I would have never done this to you," or "I thought we were closer than that." These comments are not meant to open a conversation. They are meant to make you feel like the bad guy, so that you backtrack and give up the strength you fought so hard to build. That is the plan. They do not need control if they can just make you feel wrong for not letting them have it. What makes guilt so damaging is that it does not feel like manipulation at first. It feels like your own conscience speaking. But that voice is not always your own. Sometimes it is someone else's expectation, disguised as your inner truth. It is someone else's inability to take responsibility being placed on your shoulders. It is someone else's hurt being used to silence your growth. And if you are not careful, you will carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. When you start setting boundaries, people who benefited from your lack of them will not thank you. They will question you, challenge you, and if that fails, guilt you. They will say you are being too distant, too cold, too different. They will remind you of what they did for you in the past, or how you used to be. They will say it is not like you to act this way. But what they really mean is it is not like the version of you they could control. That version is gone, and they are mourning the loss of their access, not the loss of the relationship itself. You stay strong by recognizing the difference between true guilt and false guilt. True guilt means you violated your own values. False guilt means you violated someone else's agenda. You stay strong by checking your motives. If you set a boundary to protect your peace, or chose distance to maintain your mental health, or said no because it was the right thing for you, then that is not selfishness, that is strength. You do not owe anyone your exhaustion, your time, your silence, or your compliance just to make them comfortable. The truth is, if they have to use guilt to get close to you again, then they were never showing up in love. They were showing up for control, and they are simply finding new ways to get it back. Do not trade your peace for approval. Do not trade your clarity for comfort. And do not apologize for healing in a way that no longer includes their chaos. Guilt only works when you believe it. Let it go and keep walking. When someone loses the ability to manipulate you face to face, they often turn to something far more destructive. They spread lies and misinformation. This is not always done loudly or obviously, but it is deliberate and targeted. It is a dirty trick that serves one purpose: to control how others see you, because they can no longer control how you see yourself. They know you are no longer responding to their games, so now they play a different game. One where you are not even in the room to defend yourself. People who do this want to regain power through perception. They start small. Maybe a vague story shared in conversation, a casual comment filled with just enough distortion to spark doubt, or a post online that seems harmless but carries a loaded subtext. These are not innocent slips. These are moves made to rewrite the narrative and paint themselves as the misunderstood one, while quietly turning others against you. It is character assassination dressed as concern. It is manipulation disguised as a story. The danger here is that lies spread faster than truth. And once people hear a version of you that fits someone else's agenda, they begin to question your integrity without ever asking for your side. You will start to feel the shift in energy in certain rooms. You will notice who stops reaching out, who suddenly seems distant, who looks at you with confusion or judgment. And it will hurt, not because you need everyone's approval, but because you thought some of those people knew you better. The one who spreads misinformation often acts shocked if confronted. They will say things like, "I never said that," or "I was just telling the truth," or "I was worried and thought someone should know." But the truth is they are not trying to be honest. They are trying to win. They could not win your trust or your submission, so now they are trying to win sympathy from others and turn your strength into a problem in the eyes of those around you. It is a form of manipulation that is even more dangerous than direct control because it attacks your credibility. This is when it becomes important to stay grounded. You do not chase lies. You do not waste your energy correcting every misstatement. You let your consistency speak louder than their distortion, because in time, people who pay attention will see the truth for themselves. The person who talks in circles eventually exposes themselves. The one who always has a new story to tell always ends up in the middle of the same drama, and people begin to notice the common denominator. It is tempting to want to fight back, to explain your side, to defend your name, and sometimes you will have to speak up, but more often your best defense is to keep walking in truth and let your actions contradict their lies. You do not need to explain who you are to people who truly know your heart, and the ones who are quick to believe gossip without asking questions were never really on your side to begin with. The moment you choose yourself, the moment you stop being silent or obedient or small, is often the moment someone else decides to rewrite your story to suit their pain. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them need the approval of others while you keep building a life that does not require deception to feel full. Because the truth is, no matter what they say, your peace is louder, and that is what they hate most of all. When someone can no longer manipulate you directly, and guilt does not work, and lies begin to lose power, they often move to one of the most silent and toxic strategies of all. They try to isolate you socially. This tactic is not about confrontation, it is about quiet destruction. They know they cannot break you head on, so instead they work around you in whispers and shadows. They begin to pull people away from you, not by forcing them, but by planting seeds of doubt and letting distance do the rest. This strategy is built on slow erosion, not sudden collapse. You may not notice it right away. You start feeling tension in certain conversations. Some friends stop calling. Invitations stop coming. People you were once close with seem hesitant, cold, unsure, and the worst part is you cannot point to one big moment that explains it. That is how this tactic works. It is subtle, it is private, it is layered in suggestion and implication. They do not need to tell people to leave you. They just shape a version of you that makes people wonder if they should. They may say things like, "I am worried about them," or "I do not know what is going on anymore," or "I hope they are okay, but something feels off." These words seem caring on the surface, but they are designed to make others question you without realizing they are being influenced.
They are meant to make your strength look like instability, your boundaries look like detachment, and your independence look like rejection. It is not about being honest. It is about being strategic. This tactic only works when people around you are not paying attention. The person spreading the doubts is often calm, measured, and quiet. They position themselves as the one who cares, the one who just wants peace, the one who has tried everything. Meanwhile, you are left trying to manage the silence, the distance, the confusion from people you once trusted. You begin to wonder what was said, what was implied, and why no one asked you directly. And that is the trap. It isolates you not just physically, but emotionally. It makes you question your reality. The goal is to leave you surrounded by silence, because silence makes you vulnerable. Silence makes you second guess yourself, and silence is the space where the old manipulations can start to echo again. That is what they are hoping for. They want to weaken your support system, because if they cannot control you, maybe they can make sure no one stands with you, and that way you are easier to wear down over time. But here is the truth. People who truly care about you will ask questions. They will not just listen to secondhand stories. They will notice the gaps. They will feel the manipulation. And if they don't, then they were not your people to begin with. Isolation reveals the quality of your connections. It shows you who is really with you and who is only near you out of convenience. You stay strong by staying present. You stay strong by keeping your peace, even when the room grows quiet. You do not beg people to believe you. You do not chase friendships that drifted away on the back of someone else's gossip. You keep showing up for yourself. You keep walking forward. You keep living in truth. Because in time, the real ones come back and the fake ones fade out. And the person who tried to isolate you is left surrounded by the same emptiness they tried to build around you.
When someone realizes they can no longer control you through guilt or social pressure, and their lies are losing power, they often turn to gaslighting. This is one of the most dangerous and subtle tactics used when manipulation stops working. Gaslighting is not just lying, it is not just twisting the truth. It is a calculated effort to make you doubt your own mind, your own memory, and eventually your own sanity. It is emotional warfare disguised as conversation and concern. It does not scream. It rewrites reality with a calm voice and a straight face. They will say things never happened when you know they did. They will deny words they clearly said and actions they clearly took. They will accuse you of being too sensitive or dramatic or overthinking. They will tell you that you misunderstood or misheard even when you remember it clearly. And if you push back, they will act like you are attacking them or being unfair. Slowly you begin to wonder if you are the problem. That is their goal, because once you question yourself, they do not have to control you. You will start to do it for them. This tactic is especially effective because it plays on your desire to be fair and your ability to self-reflect. If you are someone who wants to see both sides, if you are someone who does not like conflict, if you are someone who is willing to consider that you might be wrong, then you are more vulnerable to gaslighting. They take your strength, your openness, and your humility and turn it against you. They make you feel like standing your ground is arrogance and trusting your memory is irrational. Gaslighting is not always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it is subtle and wrapped in politeness. They may say things like, "I never meant it that way," or "I think you are reading too much into this," or "You always take things the wrong way." These phrases seem harmless, but over time, they chip away at your ability to trust your own feelings. You start to second guess everything. You ask yourself, am I being too much? Am I overreacting? Am I imagining things? And that inner confusion is exactly what they want. The more you doubt yourself, the more they can regain power. You will find yourself apologizing when you were the one who was hurt. You will minimize your own experience just to keep the peace. You will begin to filter your truth through their version of events. And the worst part is you will begin to silence yourself even when you know deep down something is wrong. That is when gaslighting has done its damage. Not when they lie to you, but when you stop trusting your own voice. You stay strong by holding on to your truth, even when someone else tries to blur it. Write things down if you have to. Keep track of what was said and done so they cannot erase it later. Talk to people you trust. Let them reflect reality back to you when you start to lose grip. Most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. If someone constantly makes you feel crazy for expressing real emotions or recalling real events, they are not protecting your peace. They are protecting their control. You are not too sensitive. You are not confused. You are not the problem. The problem is someone trying to convince you that your reality is less valid than theirs. That is not love. That is not respect. That is manipulation in disguise. And when you see it clearly, you take back the power they thought they stole. Not by yelling, not by proving anything, but by quietly choosing to believe yourself again. That is the beginning of freedom. When manipulation no longer works, and you begin to take your power back, some people will not walk away quietly. Instead, they will try to flip the entire script. They will make you look like the aggressor. This is one of the dirtiest and most dishonest tactics they use, because it does not just paint you in a bad light. It positions them as the victim of your strength, your clarity, and your boundaries. It is not about resolving conflict. It is about shifting blame and avoiding accountability. They do this by provoking you quietly, then highlighting only your reaction. They push your buttons behind closed doors. They lie, twist your words, ignore your needs, or cross your boundaries again and again. But the moment you speak up, the moment you say enough, the moment you express frustration, or even walk away, they point the finger at you. Suddenly, you are the one being called cold, harsh, angry, or unstable. They want others to see your response without ever knowing the pressure that led up to it. This tactic works because most people only see the surface. They see your reaction, not the reason. They hear your tone, but not the silence that came before it. They witness your exit, but not the 1,000 ways you tried to stay. This is how they protect their image. They do not want to be seen for who they are, so they do everything they can to distort who you are instead. They play innocent. They play confused. They act like they do not understand why things changed. But they know. They always know. When someone tries to make you look like the aggressor, it can make you feel like you are losing control of the story. And if you care about how you are perceived, if you care about the truth being told, this can be incredibly painful. But here is the hard truth. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Not everyone will care to hear the full story. Some people will believe what they want to believe, especially if it aligns with their own biases, or if they are afraid to see someone they like in a negative light. That is why it is so important to know who you are outside of how others see you. You cannot spend your life correcting every false version of yourself. You cannot keep shrinking to appear more agreeable. You cannot keep carrying the weight of someone else's need to look innocent. If someone had to lie about you to feel right about themselves, then they were never standing in truth to begin with. Staying strong in this situation means letting go of the need to defend your every move. It means recognizing that your boundaries are not aggression. Your emotions are not a weakness. Your distance is not cruelty. Sometimes the loudest accusations come from the people who fear the truth you carry. They need to discredit you before others start listening. They need to shift the spotlight before it lands on them. Do not fall into the trap of over-explaining. Do not hand your power back by trying to look peaceful while someone else quietly destroys your name. Let them talk. Let them spin. Let them perform. Because the people who truly know you will not be fooled. And the ones who are fooled were never meant to walk the full path with you anyway. You do not need to convince anyone that you are the good one. You just need to keep being the honest one. In time, the truth always comes to the surface. And when it does, you will still be standing, not because you fought the lies, but because you refuse to become one of them. When nothing else works, when guilt fails, when lies are exposed, when gaslighting is no longer effective, and when your strength stands unshaken, they resort to one final trick. They play the eternal victim. This is not just a tactic. It is a performance. It is not about truth. It is about sympathy. If they cannot make you feel small or wrong or isolated, they will try to become the one who was hurt, the one who was misunderstood, the one who was never treated fairly. They step into the role of victim, not because they are wounded, but because it gives them power without responsibility. This is the kind of person who will rewrite every chapter of your shared history. They will ignore the times you showed up for them, stayed silent for their comfort, carried their emotional weight, and sacrificed your own needs to keep the peace. All of that is erased. All that remains is a story in which they were always the one suffering, and you were always the one who caused it. They tell this story to anyone who will listen. They are not interested in growth or healing. They are interested in control through pity. They use pain as a tool. They twist every disagreement into a personal attack. Every boundary becomes rejection. Every consequence becomes cruelty. They never admit their role. They never take accountability. If they hurt you, they will say it is because they were hurting too. If they lied, they will say it was because they were afraid. If they abandon you, they will say it was because you left them no choice. It is always something happening to them, never something they chose. They remove their responsibility and replace it with excuses wrapped in emotion. This tactic works because most people instinctively want to protect someone who appears to be in pain. People hear their tears, their confusion, their sorrow, and they believe it without question. And the more dramatic the story, the more believable it sounds. They say things like, "I did everything for them, and they just changed," or "I never thought they would treat me like this," or "I gave them everything, and they still walked away." These words are not meant to open a dialogue. They are meant to shut down the truth before it can even be spoken. You may be tempted to defend yourself, to tell your side, to correct the record. But sometimes there is no winning against someone who is more committed to looking innocent than being honest. You will find that no matter how calmly you speak or how clearly you explain it, still turns back around on you. You become the one who is cold,
the one who is heartless, the one who abandoned them. Because that is how they keep their story alive. That is how they stay the victim, no matter what they actually did. You stay strong by recognizing what is real. You stay strong by remembering the facts, even when someone else is trying to rewrite them. You stay strong by not giving in to the guilt they manufacture. Just because someone cries does not mean they are right. Just because someone claims to be the one who was hurt does not mean they were not also the one doing the damage. Emotion is not the same as truth, and victimhood is not always honest. The ones who play the eternal victim often do it because they know deep down that if people ever saw the whole truth, their power would be gone. So they keep performing. Let them. You do not need to take the stage with them. You do not need to match their energy. You just need to keep standing in your own truth, quietly, clearly, consistently. Because while their story may travel fast, your truth will stand longer, and in the end, it will speak louder. At some point in your life, you will outgrow manipulation. You will recognize the patterns. You will stop falling for guilt and silence, and the soft lies wrapped in concern. And when that happens, something shifts. You take back your voice. You choose boundaries over people pleasing. You choose truth over keeping the peace. You walk away from what drains you. And for some people, that is the beginning of the end, not the end of you, the end of their control over you. When people realize they cannot manipulate you, they do not usually stop trying to control the situation. They just change tactics. They move in silence. They twist the story. They turn to emotional tricks to maintain their place in your life or in the lives of others. And if you are not careful, if you do not stay grounded, they will make you question yourself. That is the real danger. Not that they lie. Not that they whisper, but that you start to believe them again. But now you know better. You know the signs. You know the moves. You know that if they cannot control you directly, they will try to control how others see you. If they cannot make you feel guilty, they will make you feel alone. If they cannot get you to lower your boundaries, they will make it look like you are the one who is cold or aggressive. And when all else fails, they will cry victim, not because they were harmed, but because it keeps the spotlight off what they actually did. This is not about revenge. This is not about making them see what they did. This is not even about clearing your name in every room where it was spoken against. This is about protecting your peace. This is about standing strong when everything in you wants to scream your truth to people who will never hear it the way you need them to. This is about holding your ground, not for pride, but for healing, not for attention, but for self-respect. It takes strength to walk away without closure. It takes strength to let people think what they want to think. It takes strength to stay silent when you could easily destroy their version of the story. But the truth is, you do not need to win the argument. You just need to win your life back. You just need to keep showing up for yourself. You just need to keep choosing growth over games. In the end, you will see something powerful. You will see that peace is louder than drama. You will see that healing is more satisfying than being right. You will see that the people who love you do not need a perfect story. They just need your honesty. And the people who leave were never meant to stay. That is not loss. That is clarity. So the next time someone tries to twist your truth, the next time someone plays the victim after hurting you, The next time someone cannot control you and tries to turn the world against you, remember this. You are not here to manage anyone else's perception. You are here to live in truth. You are here to grow. You are here to protect your energy and your heart and your voice. Let them say what they want. Let them perform. Let them play every dirty trick in the book, because you do not need to play along. You are not who they say you are. You never were. You are stronger than the story they tell. And the moment you stopped needing their validation was the moment you truly became free.